Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Pete. I've not got the 20 years in Metrolink, maybe you can tell by our faces, and this is Chris.
Chris Fielding from Metrolink, Cam.
Thank you very much. And I think I'm hoping you see that I'm from TFGM, the client, the boss, but actually Chris is here from Keolis Amy Metrolink, Cam. And us presenting together, for me, is that evidence of the collaboration that's needed to have a successful Metrolink, a successful system. And just even me saying us as the boss is the wrong thing. It is a complete partnership with TFGM as the owner and Cam as the operator and maintainer. So I'll start with just who we are. You've heard who me and Chris are, but the Metrolink family. We've seen how complicated Nottingham Trams is. I think we're a little bit more simple than that. And then I'm going to use challenges. I know Jamie said that's a negative connotation, but actually I think we're overcoming some of those challenges. So I've got a positive story to sell. And then Chris is going to talk to us about rail brakes, another challenge for us. Mm-hmm. And then just trying to have a central thread through it all is that collaboration and how we're overcoming these, or how we're finding opportunities. So just that history of Metrolink. Metrolink is the face of the light rail sector. We are on the top of the picture. Thank you very much. Sorry to all the other networks. We are the biggest network in the UK. The other networks will be tired of hearing that. But our history there, we are still, in terms of the railway world, quite new. And the collaboration here I really want to draw on is that the phase 3 big bang of Metrolink, that I can see we've got partners in the room today from Thales, now Hitachi, and Volkers and Langs. That was a consortium, MPT, that stayed with us for 10 years to build that. And I've been involved with projects before where we start off thinking we're going to have this 10-year collaboration and it falls flat on the first stage of the project and we all fall out. So I wasn't involved with that, so I can't claim any. It's nothing to do with me that the collaboration worked there, but clearly something in the organisations all together could make that work. So really, really successful. And you speak to people in Manchester today, it's as if Metrolink has always been there. And you can see how much it spans out across Manchester now. So yes, we are maybe a bit complicated. All the councils, at TFGM, we get all the emails from the residents through their councillors coming to TFGM when they've got complaints. And TFGM, we sit under the Combined Authority in Manchester. So we're a local government organisation. And then Chris sits in Keolis Amy Metrolink, also referred to as CAM. But I'm sure you'll all appreciate that just because CAM's contract will come to an end, we all know it's going to be the same people working together. And I think that's a fundamental piece of remembering, especially in a light rail sector where you're contracting out operations and maintenance. You can't fall out with your partners. Projects colleagues would sometimes tell me, come on, just push CAM a little bit harder. But I have to recognise I know what stresses they're under. And I also know, just because Keolis Amy badge might disappear, it's still going to be Chris I'm working with. So it's recognising that long-term partnership in certain areas. We've got the same familiar faces of the ORR and REIB, just like the doctors. They're lovely people, but you hope you never see them. Sadly, we have seen them a few times, but again, I think we've built some good relationships there when we have had to work with them. And then we've heard from UK Tram, and we'll hear from Craig later about LRSSB, so I won't touch on them. But again, lots of different bodies all working together to make Metrolink a success. So, yeah, I'm one of these people that I'm not all about the projects. I'd say I'm more of a maintainer, asset manager person. So I came in after the expansion. I still got invited to the celebration meal when Trafford Park Line was finished. But it has been a challenge for us. When you're expanding and at such a rate of knots, you've got that political backing. The whole organisation of TFGM was behind all the money we were spending. And then once you get past that, we're on the next big thing. And in Manchester, that's the B network, franchising of buses. We're just getting on over here. Metrolink should always work, shouldn't it? We've spent the £2 billion. So it's really had some challenges for us, this. So 2017, Keolis Amy came along, and that was the new O&M contract. And it was the first contract since the Phase 3 expansion that it was one maintenance organisation. Previously, MPT was a design, build and maintain contract. I'm sure there's some challenges with that, Chris, coming under one organisation. But when we were going out for the contract for this, we obviously did market engagement. We wanted a competitive tender process to get the best partner for us. And we found that the market wasn't willing to accept or didn't want to accept the revenue risk. So TFGM, we now take the ticket fare box revenue, just like heavy rail now. Government's had to pocket that now. And also delivering renewals. We took on the responsibility for funding and delivering renewals. A bit like what Jamie said, recognising where your risk is and who's best to own that. And TFGM, in their wisdom, decided that we will fund and deliver renewals. Probably the right decision, but not without its challenges. So we had a plan. Nice and easy. We're going to deliver renewals. How hard can it be, Chris? You know, you were doing it before, weren't you? I think quite a few of them.
Yep.
We can do it better. So we had a high-level 30-year plan put together by a consultancy just to give the market confidence that we knew what we were talking about, that we recognised there was a renewals work bank. We had a nice contract where Chris would tell me with 18 months' notice that widget needs renewing. We'd fund it all through ticket revenue as well, back in 2017, great idea. And then we'd get on and deliver it. So we had to set up a project team as well. And that's the spend profile there, the permanent way for track renewals over that 40-year period from 2017. We spent a lot more. It costs a lot, doesn't it, Jamie? Jamie's told us how much it costs. But the reality, incredibly difficult to entice the market. We set up a complicated framework. I need to remember this is being filmed and going on YouTube, so I can't say too much about the procurement colleagues. But we set up a complicated framework with lots of different lots. And then even then, when we wanted to award some work, we'd still do a competition and we'd still have to sign a contract at the end of it as well. So that doesn't seem like a framework to me, but anyway, that's what we did. Embedded track renewals, our biggest expenditure, and it turns out on the framework, there really wasn't anyone there that was willing to do it. And when I wrote this, I said lead time of 9 months for S&C, or specific items. We've heard from Marlena today, sometimes 17 months for S&C now. So if Chris is only telling me with 18 months notice, we don't stand a chance, especially when you put my local government procurement colleagues in front of it as well. So add on another 18 months. And we were going to fund it through revenue, COVID. So yeah, what are you going to do? We had to carry on. So we did have a plan. Well, I say we had a plan, it went wrong, and we had to revise it. So thankfully, well, we subcontracted a lot of our asset management capabilities to Chris and his teams. And that included that asset data collection. And so we could work, the engineers in TFGM could work really closely with Chris and his teams to actually think, you know what, there might be a contractual deadline to tell us in 18 months as a renewal, but actually let's just work together and get a much better visibility of our work plan. So you can see here, 2040. I hope I won't be here in 2040 because we've got a lot of work to do then. I'm sure that'll get smoothed out, but we can now give our supply chain and get into contracts with suppliers, and thankfully MPT are continuing to work with us to really, and a lot of Volkers, to really deliver some successful renewals for us. But again, we came to the 7-year point of the contract with CAM, and we had to recognise that a successful partnership is always typically when your supplier is making money. And this gave us an opportunity to make sure CAM could still be successful. So we knew we were struggling to deliver renewals. CAM wanted to make more money. So boom. We've now started to channel a lot more renewals directly through CAM. We'll still fund it. We have to have a lot of oversight on it. But we're seeing really successful delivery of projects there, especially the smaller ones. The problem with a contract that says widget A is a renewal when it's 5 metres, it becomes a renewal at less than 5 metres, it's OPEX. You get a 6-metre job and it only costs 50k. You can't engage the market on that. But that's where CAM, with their partners that are often doing the smaller bits of work, can really jump on it. And then, yeah, central. We are now at the same begging bowl of all the other parts of GM. We've got a combined settlement GM does with devolution now, but we're now asking for that money alongside the fire brigade and everyone else. So we really needed to prioritise. So thankfully, we'd already actioned this actually. The asset management team in TFGM Because we'd really struggled to deliver these renewals, we were building up a bigger and bigger work bank of renewals not done. That meant TFGM was taking on the risk, because once a renewal had passed its 18-month deadline, TFGM became responsible for any increase in OPEX costs. Additionally, we have the reputational risk if the railway stops because we've not delivered a renewal. So we, as a team, realised we needed to understand the risk to that work bank that wasn't being delivered, what that risk was to TFGM. So we developed the aero process. I robbed this. E.ON uses in the power stations. So I saw the strapline aero, asset engineering, risk and opportunity. And they were doing it really well because they'd put in not just renewal items, they'd also have opportunities in there where we could spend a bit of money, but it'd give us a bigger saving. We're not at that maturity yet. We're still at that, we need to do a renewal. Let's get it in and score it. But we're now scoring each renewal. And it's not just TFGM's view. When CAM tell us about a renewal, they score it as well. So we've got a combined view as an engineering team, what the risk of not doing that renewal is. And we've got the proposal goes in there, score that, and we base it on safety, performance, and customer. And I say customer, very much it's our lifts and escalators that really, we're very proud that we're a fully accessible network, but when a lift doesn't work, there's basically no network for someone that can't use stairs. But as PWI engineers in the room, not myself, but sometimes those things aren't our high priority because we're just concerned with that safety of the line. But we need to recognise that that has a big impact on our customers. So we'd factor in safety, performance and customer and score it all together. So we've got in a much better place, and having this in place meant that when we went to the begging bowl asking, I think we're asking for circa 250 to 300 million pounds for the next 5-year funding settlement, we've got a justified evidence position of why we want all that money. We'll find out in about 6 months how much we get, probably not that amount, but we can at least then communicate back to the business, well, I'm sorry, this is the risk you're now taking because of this process. So yeah, a really challenging period. It's always easier that make or do question. TFGM decided to, I suppose, do in the sense of renewals. We'll try and do it ourselves. I think it's only worked because the TFGM engineering team and delivery team could work with the CAM engineers and delivery teams to move this forward. So that's the kind of asset management renewals planning side. Chris is going to talk to you about rail brakes now.
Thank you, Peter. So firstly, thanks to the PWI. I feel privileged to share one of many Metrolinx challenges with the teams.
I should have said that as well. I'm privileged as well.
So, rail brakes and embedded track. Welcome to Manchester. You can see the typical cross-section, and we have a number of rail types. However, the RI59 section is a predominant rail in Manchester, which is, of course, embedded. We also have a number of embedment systems, but all are common in the form of electrical and mechanical properties. The asymmetrical rail provides challenges of its own with pre-curving and welding new to one rail. And as Jamie said before, with limited skill suppliers across the industry, that really is a challenge, getting the correct people on the jobs. Recent years have shown an increased rate of rail brakes. On one day alone, we had 3 separate rail brakes identified in Manchester. The operational impact is very real. We're under great pressure to keep the service running. Very often we'll impose a 5-mile-an-hour speed restriction, and we'll impose watchmen for operational hours. The rail brake, what the track inspectors report are a clean-looking rail brake to the rail head. They cannot see any other part of the rail. The welds are always within 150 millimetres of these rail brakes. The next slide shows the true story of what's happening beneath the surface. The photo shows how the crack typically propagates, resulting in the break at the surface. Of concern is that most welds are not a clean vertical or S-shaped failure, and many exhibit supplementary cracking. A common misnomer in the light rail industry is that they are of less importance due to the rail being encapsulated. To me, no comfort is gained that the rail is encapsulated, and the risk of the rail head becoming detached is very real. So the initiation of the rail brakes was quite lucky. We managed to find some welds which weren't encapsulated, and we did quite a bit of a study. And you can see the small crack in the weld collar. The propagation rates cannot be estimated due to many variables, such as the service pattern and frequency, and the stresses imposed in the rail from installation and welding. The crack propagates into a typical S shape, and with it being encapsulated, this is still undetectable visually by the patrol teams. Causes of the rail break. Some of the breaks develop the supplementary cracking, which increases the risk of part of the railhead detaching if not actioned swiftly. So I've added some red lines to the photo so you can clearly see where we've got the supplementary cracking. So, the temporary repairs. Over the years, we've refined the process and now endeavour to weld a short section of railing, typically 1 metre, within 7 days. The welding assists with the blending of the new to worn, heavily worn rail. The permanent repair is very often a pre-curved 4.5 metre minimum section, and as luck would happen, the brakes always tend to be in the middle of the highway on curved track just for the added challenge, which then require road closures and traffic management to ensure a safe system would work. Solutions for the rail brakes. Now that we know the probable cause of the previous weld failures, we engage with Pandrel. To improve the process, we needed to ensure that all future welds were better performing. CAM and TFGM, Pete and I brought this problem to the UK Light Rail Engineers Group for help. Pandrel responded. Pandrel already had an alternative process, but not for the Manchester rail section. We let Pandrel know about our challenges, and they quickly responded with a new weld process for Manchester. The process had an improved weld collar design. Also key to the revised process, the preheat of the parent metals with an automated system, ensuring that uniformity of the preheat. It's on display on the Pandrel site. So the SRGR process is now born for Manchester, and to date we have a 100% success rate. Volker's also supported in the testing and suitability. So the inspection and future strategy. So we've got a plan for all future welds, but we still have over 5,500 welds in situ across the network. Ultrasonic testing has not been done on groove rail due to the asymmetrical section, making it hard to inspect. However, we put the challenge again to our partners Pandrel, and they said they've been developing something. So Pandrel and ourselves tested the new ultrasonic testing system. The process takes a lot longer than conventional testing, and this requires us to find the welds, then slowly push a trolley to give an indication of any defects. Then they use hand probes to build up a picture and analyse it in more detail on site. So you can see the photo in the bottom right. That's the guys, they're using the hand probes and they're very quickly picking up the defect. And the hand probes gives you the picture of the size, the depth, and it also gives you the directions of the cracks with accuracy. Site verification. So now we have to put this into a future maintenance regime. We have to balance the cost of additional testing alongside the benefits of being able to plan to remove the biggest risk of the failing welds. This is to be continued with ongoing works and discussions with TFGM and CAM to implement the correct process of testing and the repair, which is no small task. Thank you.
I think that's, again, the frustration for us engineers is there's a contract between us. This is Chris, and Pandrel aren't paying us, by the way, and neither are Volkers, but if you want to buy us a beer later, maybe. But this is the problem. We've got a contract here that this is a new testing methodology that you, Chris, have led to implement and validate and work with the supply chain, but that's off your own back because you've got a great engineering director in Bilal who's pushed that as well. But now we need to, well, we know we need to spend a lot of money now to get on top of this risk, and that is our job as engineers to communicate that back to the business, to say, with integrity, to just say, we have to do this. We talk about the masters, the project managers, the accountants. Ultimately, it's down to us to let people know why we need to do this. All of our engineering disciplines get complicated when you get into the detail. The wheel rail interfaces, as I'm an electrical engineer, but to start to get into the detail of track, once you get into the detail, it gets complicated. But we know we don't have to go to that level of detail to project managers and accountants. I know they'd be able to understand what we're talking about today. And so it's for us to communicate that risk and get the money ultimately. So a great piece of work there, and fingers crossed we get the money. So just to summarise really that collaboration, I've got some points there that have gone through the presentation there, but I thought I'd just give you my tips on collaborating. And I think it's much easier when people are making money. And when people don't make money, the client has to look at themselves as well to think why they're not making money. It's too easy as a client to just say, well, they didn't read the works information. They didn't read the requirements or understand them. But we as a client need to ask ourselves, well, why didn't they understand them? And then hindsight's beautiful, isn't it? If you've got hindsight, you know where to focus your efforts because it's going to be a problem in the future. But hindsight comes later. So that's where I think these forums, the Light Rail Engineers Group, UK Tram, to pass knowledge on for the people today from the experience that we have in the industry, so that the younger engineers like myself, I'm still badging myself as a younger engineer, can draw that experience and know where to focus in the future. And finally, yeah, Chris has got a contract, so he has to do it. MPT have got a contract, Volkers have got a contract, they have to do it. I've paid them. But it goes a long way, I think, to say thanks. I think if you treat your supply chain as a partner and forget the contract and think these people have done a great job for us, it's just saying thanks to people, I think, goes a long, long way in the partnership. So that's my 1, 2, 3 tips for collaboration. So thank you very much.
Thank you.